Right, this is a relatively short video. Well, it's almost a week. It's just on, say, Thursday. It's just on 6 days since I got my new camera. And this lens here I got as an extra for just around town, so that it makes it a bit easier to take the camera with me every day as much as possible. And this is the 24 to 240. Yeah, it's a nice little lens. It doesn't have anything on the side of it, no in lens stabilization or switch it from manual to auto, but considering the body's got stabilization and you can go into the menu and turn on manual focus if you want, which I'm hardly likely to use with this lens, well, it's there. I did get a couple of Kinko macro rings to keep in my bag as well, and getting to my bag right now could be a bit tricky, so I should have grabbed them earlier. Yeah, I turned the face tracking off. I actually put it in the fast menu because I found that the face tracking I don't use that much. I can understand if it was in a crowd situation or something like that, I might use it, but I don't use it that much. I tend to either use just the straight ordinary flexible spot focus, or what the hell, it's single point focus I think it's called. Let's turn it on and find out. I can't, it's like the battery's charging, never mind. And I use the eye recognition, but I don't use the facial recognition that much, so I thought, just so it doesn't, because there's a couple of times where it's been just a bit of a nuisance when I'm doing street shots and things like that, and someone walks through, it'll actually pick up their face and track them, which is good for a lot of situations, but not when I was using it like that. But and I visited Snapshot again, and I'm still waiting for the lights, but the controller for the speed lights has arrived. Ooh, light reflected, there we go. For some reason I thought it would be bigger than this, so I'm actually glad it's not. It's relatively small by comparison to what I thought it would be. Comes in its own little bag, of course, which it will definitely stay in when it's in my bag to help protect it, but place for the batteries, takes AA's, so that's handy. Nothing worse than having umpteen different types of battery, so I'll probably get a set of rechargeables just for this thing. I like the nice easy locking mechanism, and the nice little cover to protect the foot, which I'll endeavour not to lose. On the Nikon I lost the one on the hot shoe, so I'm sort of aiming to not lose these, but because I did find with the Nikon, it's probably the same with any camera, that if you lose that contact there can get a little bit grubby, and sometimes if you're using the camera on flash, which I hardly ever did, but on the rare occasions you did, you find it decides not to work and you've got to sit there cleaning the little contact. But found a few interesting things. With the Nikon, I'm used to the lens release being here, and I still do this. I was used to holding the lens here and then pressing it. I'm sort of getting into the habit of doing it with this finger. It's just every now and again I go to pick up the lens and I go, where's the button? And this I've seen some reviews for this, and I had a couple of people tell me not to waste my time with this 24 to 240, but I found it to be pretty near as crisp as the other lenses. Yes, the G lenses are far superior, but still there isn't that big a gap really. At the 24 end there's a little bit of vignetting and that sort of thing, and at the 240 end sometimes your sharpness isn't as good as the 70 to 200 2.8 is, but still it's pretty good, and the lack of sharpness really is insignificant. I don't know why people make such a big fuss over it. It's not that big a deal, and keeping in mind this is not being used for landscapes or portrait photography or anything serious. This is just so that I've got one lens on the camera. When I go out, I can pick the lens up, sling it over my shoulder, go out, and I can shoot anywhere from 24 to 240. You know, shoot some birds while I'm at a calf, shoot some street, whatever it happens to be. Or if I went to Auckland with someone at the last minute and didn't want to take all the heavy glass, I can just take that, bang, I can shoot a few photographs roaming around Auckland or anywhere else for that matter. If I was going somewhere specifically to do landscapes or nature photography, like going to the zoo or wherever like that, then I would go to the trouble of taking the big glass. But if I was just going along to help someone look after a bunch of kids at the zoo for the day, I'd probably just take this. Wouldn't worry too much about the 400, but yeah. I'm still finding a few idiosyncrasies with this that I are interesting to play with. Focus wise, I think I prefer the flexible single point. Center, I'm still used to focusing and recomposing. I'm slowly getting over that habit, and now that I've got a camera that I can move the focus point around and get the same level of focus no matter where it is on the sensor, I'm getting used to that. I think it's flexible expanded focus option, which is essentially the same as a flexible single point, except if it can't grab focus on that single point, it then attempts to grab focus on a series of points around that are right up close to it. That's really useful. Found that very useful a few times. I set the C1 to turn off or on the what you see is what you get part of the focusing screen, because there are times when I don't want it on. That was entertaining when I accidentally turned it off and couldn't figure out why it wasn't showing me what I was seeing, but anyway. But other than that, there's still a few things. I found I tend to use manual mode a lot more on this than I did in the past, purely because of the fact that when it comes to street or landscape or cityscape or anything like that, being able to see my exposure in the screen or in the viewfinder does make life a little bit easier. What else? I took the 200 for a spin up at the local gardens here with someone yesterday, and I liked playing with that. That was definitely a good choice, getting that 70 to 200 2.8. If the weather stays fine, I might be taking the 400 for a spin to the zoo at some stage. I might be going to the gardens tomorrow with someone, depending on what happens, and I might take the 400 up for that. There's not a lot of birds and stuff out at the moment, so it's not a great advantage, but I'll take it anyway. Yeah, I think that's about all for now. I don't think there's anything else. I tried the video on this. I'm not really a videographer for on camera. I tend to use the cell phone for the little bits of video that I do, but I did do some video capture on this thing, and I haven't really looked into it, so I just chucked it into the video mode on the dial and just used that to see how it went. And for how I use video, I don't have a problem with it. I may investigate that later on, but I don't know yet. I'm starting to get used to where things are on the menu. Any important stuff, I've now got to two screens in the favourites part of the menu. So anything important I go and put on there. Haven't really played with program mode yet. I had a look at it, but I haven't really had a proper play with it, because I tend to only, in the past, I've only ever used that mode on a camera when I've got a speed light on camera on TTL. I hardly ever use shutter priority. Some of my images that I've done just recently at some pretty high ISOs, I was really surprised how they came out. I have found that unlike the Nikon, I don't need to really do any sharpening in Lightroom when I import the raw files. Same with the chromatic aberration. It's quite weird. I got so used to, if I had a picture of a tree with the sky behind it, I got so used to going into the adjusting the chromatic aberration in Lightroom, and I found I don't need to bother with that on here. You do, when you're using the 2.8, you definitely notice it when you miss your focus. If you focus on an eyebrow instead of an eyeball, and you happen to be getting a very shallow depth of field, you definitely notice it. But not to the point where it's a problem. The missed focus is generally not much worse than the standard focus of my little Nikon that I had. It's not too bad, but yeah, I haven't tried my lenses on my tripod yet. I've set them up, but I haven't actually taken them out into the wilderness and set them up yet, so that's yet to come. But definitely like to thank Snapshot for all the help, and can't wait to get the speed lights. That'll be interesting to play with. I'll probably spend bleeding ages setting them up, or at least finding where the things are on the menu. Apparently I was reading some instructions, the setting them up to connect to the controller is actually pretty easy, and then it's just deciding how I'm going to use them. After doing a bit of reading, I might actually use them on TTL a lot more than I've done with speedlights in the past. I normally don't have any time for playing with TTL on off-camera speedlights, but there's a possibility I might do it with these. Yeah, but I think that's it. I think give it another week or thereabouts, and I'll probably have a better idea of the things that I found different and strange and odd, and thanks to Ashok, I'm seriously going to look, when I go out and do some landscapes, going to see how this goes in full manual, because with the way these mirrorless cameras work, which is I'm not used to, doing landscapes fully manual where the camera's just giving me information, it's not making any decisions for me, could be quite interesting. and using bracketing and that sort of thing. But it'll be interesting to do some landscapes that are done where I'm using information that the camera presents to me, but doing all the settings and making all the decisions myself. So yeah. So anyway, that's about it for the moment. I shall come back with a few more things in a week or less, depending how bored I get over the next week. If it buckets down with rain in the next week, I might do another video a lot earlier.